Now we know, 40 years later, that people like Fernando come at certain times in baseball history.
He was an immigrant like many of the members of our families. He's not just a symbol to the Latino community, but he's a great pitcher.
Like Jackie Robinson, Fernando broke a glass ceiling.
Jerry Royce had been named the opening day starter for the Dodgers in 1981, but when he turned an ankle late in spring training, manager Tommy Lasorda turned to a 20-year-old rookie from Mexico, from Sonora. Fernando Valenzuela made it look easy. He shut out the Houston Astros on 5 hits, 2-0. On this day, April 9, 1981, Fernandomania was born. In the press, the stands, in Chávez Ravine, and all over Los Angeles. 1981 was a magical season for the lefty. He won the National League Cy Young Award and the Rookie of the Year, and helped the Dodgers beat the New York Yankees in the World Series 4-2. Fernando's impact on the Dodgers was huge, but that impact extended far beyond baseball. LA Latinos had someone to root for, finally, a reflection of themselves, and help them forget, or at least forgive a little bit, the events of 3 decades earlier. Back then, members of the communities of Palo Verde, Bishop, and La Loma, just north of downtown in Chávez Ravine, were forced from their homes. This happened after the government declared eminent domain in order to build public housing. The plan failed, but a few years later, that land was used as bait to bring the Brooklyn Dodgers into Los Angeles. Over the course of the 2021 baseball season, the Los Angeles Times will present Fernandomania at 40. This video series will recount Valenzuela's incredible rookie season, of course, but more crucially, we'll relive the perfect storm in Los Angeles that had been building for decades that set the stage for Fernando Valenzuela's improbable rise. Here's a preview of what you'll see.
The Dodgers came across as big robber barons. They took over this land, and the stories of families being pushed out of their homes and a lot of bad stuff kept coming up.
To me, it was just a big black eye in society. You know, it caused a lot of pain. Because of that, you know, a lot of the Mexican Americans, they said, hey, forget the Dodgers, we're done. We're not gonna go. We're never gonna step a foot in the new stadium.
When Mr. Walter O'Malley came to Los Angeles, he used to tell us, Jaime, when are you going to find and give us a Mexican Sandy Koufax? And I used to tell Mr. O'Malley, it's impossible to find another Koufax, not only in Mexico, any Latin country. So he wanted to have, you know, he realized that it was very, very important to please the Mexican community in Southern California.
All of a sudden, along comes Fernando right out of the blue, just changed everything.
When Fernando hit, it was just like, oh my God.
Here he is, man. Here's a Mexicano. You know, everybody loves a hero. Everybody wants to have a hero. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. I mean, everybody wants to be the fan of somebody. And especially if he's of your racial background, my God, you know, vámonos, viva la raza, you know? So that's what Fernando brought. He brought an awareness and made us a little bit more prideful.
He made the Dodgers seem more relevant to all communities. It was easier to forget about people being shoved out of their homes when Fernando was winning games. That's a very shallow statement, but I think it's true.
Fernando was really key in bringing the hearts and minds of La Raza back to the stadium, or to the stadium, really for the first time.
When Fernando made it big, a lot of that, the guilt, a lot of that anger kind of dissipated, and people start coming back to Chávez Ravine.
Fernandomania just exploded. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody had to be at the Dodgers when Fernando, wherever he traveled throughout the United States.
It became, you had to go to the game. And literally, when the police would stop you, if Fernando was playing, they wouldn't say, what are you doing? They go, why aren't you at the park? You know, because you were doing something wrong if you weren't at the baseball park.
It was like watching midnight mass on Christmas Eve, or, you know, it's hushed, sit, nobody talk, nobody move. Today we're pulling for the Mexican with Dodger blue on. But Dad, we have our Giants hats on. Shut up, put those away.
It was quite a vibe, okay? I remember my aunt, my tia Felipa, who loved the Dodgers and loved baseball, and she would always tune in to the Spanish language radio and then watch it on TV. She was so excited about Fernando. And I think that that's the same kind of sense and feeling that everyone had in the community. It was just an abundance of pride and a sense of feeling like he was part of your family.
When Fernando was pitching, was sold out. Then at home, I know that ladies, especially mothers and grandmothers, started praying and praying the rosary because Fernando was pitching that day. So he became God, really, in Southern California. It was unbelievable.
I remember driving home from rehearsal one evening, right? And the Dodgers are playing. I remember turning on my block, my windows are down, and you could hear every TV. You could hear the TVs. Everybody's on Channel 11, I believe it was, watching the Dodgers play, whoever it was. And you could just hear, you know, this enthusiasm of people, you know, because Fernando was pitching.
I always loved the wind-up. When he was looking at the sky, he was looking at the heavens, at God for inspiration, for that little bit extra kick.
You are now there to see one person, the person that reflects you, right? The person that speaks for you in some way, right? There's something I think always about sports that has a character who is subversive, right? He's going to flip the whole script on what you've known or what you believe this sport to be. And this one seems more extreme because he's not tall, he's not blonde, he's not, you know, he's not Steve Garvey, right?
He was chubby. And, you know, in Spanish, we say gordito. He was a chubby guy, and the people could relate to him. I mean, he wasn't cut up, you know, and, weightlifter, athlete's body. He was a gordito, just like everybody else in East LA.
We really didn't know anything about him, and we wouldn't for years and years afterwards, because he didn't speak English. It was, you know, he was the kind of thing, you know, it was just what you saw was what you got, but what you saw was just sensational.
Even a 19-year-old, you got to be impressed with Fernando at that age, that composed he had at the mound. At that time, Fernando looked like he was in the major league for about 10 years, the way he handled himself.
It was a phenomenon unlike anything that I had seen up until that time. And even though pitchers from other countries came in and there was a lot of attention put to them, I don't think it had quite the same impact as it did in 1981 with Fernando. It was the right person, the right time with the right story, and everything seemed to break to present a whole new era of Los Angeles baseball.
There was an optimism, a hope, an energy around that I think excited folks. The fact that, like Jackie Robinson, he also played at a very high level, kind of demonstrated to people, hey, there's talent in many communities.
When Fernando was with us, he's never gotten the credit that he deserves for the impact he made on baseball, not just on the Dodger organization, but on Mexican baseball, international baseball, the community.
I believe that Fernando will always be a hero to the Mexican-American community. People love him. To this day, they love him.
It's an LA story. I honestly believe that it's part of the history of Los Angeles. That's the impact that he had, not just on the Latino community, you know, but on Los Angeles. When he came in, he was like the guy.
So all of a sudden you have this sports figure who's not just a sports figure, he's a symbol of how you endure.